on the horizon in the upcoming year? I want to talk about two things. What you think is going to unfold, well, even in January, I mean, once Parliament reconvenes, and what you expect from Trudeau in terms of his political action, then what you expect as the Liberal Party tries to reformulate itself. Like, I can't imagine a scenario, not really, where Trudeau leads the Liberals into the next election. That seems to me highly improbable. It wouldn't surprise me if he has to be removed kicking and screaming, so to speak. But I'd like to hear your thoughts on what are Canadians to expect in the upcoming months.
So Parliament's back in late January. It will take some weeks to actually get a non-confidence vote onto the floor of the House of Commons. Then we'll see if Jagmeet Singh's latest promise of voting non-confidence was as insincere as his prior commitments to that effect.
When does his pension kick in?
In February. So he's now, basically, he said yesterday that he would put forward a non-confidence motion at the earliest opportunity. Well, that's likely to be March, which is...
Oh, that's convenient. Okay, right, so that problem's off. So really,
right.
so March is the earliest, as far as you can see, that election could be called.
Singh will not vote non-confidence before he gets his pension, or at least he will not vote non-confidence in a way that sees the election happen before his pension kicks in. So we won't have an election before very late winter, early spring. Then there's the possibility that the Trudeau resigns and then goes to the Governor General and says we need to shut down Parliament, while the Liberal Party then chooses a new replacement, a Trudeau 2.0. Mm-hmm. And so there would be a leadership race. God knows how long that would drag on for.
You think approximately in March, no earlier than March as far as you can foresee?
Yeah, probably. And during which time we'd continue to flounder and twist in the wind. And by the way, the Liberal media is all saying, well, surely you wouldn't want to trigger an election during a Liberal leadership race. Excuse me, the Canadian people are not obliged, 41 million people are not obliged to wait around while this party sorts out its shit. Mm-hmm. Like, these guys could have got rid of Trudeau a year and a half ago. They knew he was a disaster then. And now they say, well, we're low in the polls, so we have to get rid of him. Now, you didn't care when he was just depriving single mothers of food for their kids, or doubling housing costs, or unleashing crime in neighborhoods across the country. But now you're really concerned about getting rid of him because your poll numbers are down and you want to keep your job. Sorry, that's not a good reason to paralyze the entire country, in the face, by the way, of a major negotiation with the incoming U.S. president, who enters with a massive and powerful mandate, and a man who has proven that he can spot weakness from a mile away. So the country should not be forced to wait for the Liberal Party to clean up its own mess. They've had plenty of time to do that. What we need now is certainty, and the only way that can come is through an election so the people can decide.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And so who do you see as contenders on the Liberal side? I mean, Freeland, I think, is going to make a run for it. But Carney, do you think he's going to throw his hat in the ring? Now, he famously rejected the opportunity to become Trudeau's finance minister.
After accepting
okay.
it. Well, so the chronology that we're led to believe, based on sources who've spoken about it to the media, is that Carney agreed to the job. Trudeau went to Freeland days before she was to introduce her fall update and said, I'm going to be firing you to bring in Mark Carney. And then when that blew up with her unexpected premature resignation, then Carney looked at it and said, I don't want any part of this. And he crawled under his desk. And so he was happy to take the job when it looked like it was a clear path. But then when it was a messier path, he hid from it.
Well, why would have he decided to take that job to begin with? Because
it's a good question.
Well, God, you can't imagine stepping into a more thankless role. I mean,
who would want to associate with these guys?
Well, Carney already has a reputation. It seems to me that if he has prime ministerial ambitions, he'd just wait for the Trudeau Liberals to cataclysmically degenerate even further and then step in as the savior.
Look, he's going to try and distance himself now, but here's the problem. He signed on as Trudeau's economic advisor. It's an official role he holds today. Now, he's going to make one of two arguments. One, he's going to say, yes, in fact, I was his economic advisor, and therefore I am responsible for the $62 billion deficit and the catastrophic growth and the rising cost of living. Or he's going to say, I wasn't really his advisor, I was just full of it. He has to decide, was he lying to everybody when he claimed he was Trudeau's advisor? Or was he telling the truth? And either way, he's got a major political problem that he is now totally inseparable from the Trudeau record. He supports the carbon tax. He supports the attack on our energy sector. He told me in a parliamentary committee that he opposed Canadian pipelines, even though his company has invested in pipelines in the Middle East and in Brazil. He is part of the Davos agenda. He's just every bit as radical as Trudeau. The only difference is he's got a nice banker's haircut and suit, and he wears navy blue socks rather than polka dot socks. But beyond the aesthetics, he shares Trudeau's entire ideology, and he represents the status quo.
Okay. So, what do you see? Let's do this. I want to know what you see as, frankly speaking, I don't envy you your job, or the people, by the way, in the Trump administration, because it's very glamorous at the moment for them. But if they're going to cut government inefficiency in a serious manner, they're going to be doing hard administrative labor for a very long period of time. Now, you're going to take the helm of Canada when there are 5 dimensions of trouble brewing, and more serious trouble on all of those dimensions than I've ever seen plague Canada in my entire life as a Canadian. And it's worse than that, because I suspect that the true picture is a lot more dismal than we know.
Yes.
Okay, so that's going to be dumped on you sometime in the next year. And so how are you going to deal with that? How are you going to deal with the fact that the easiest thing to do for Canadians and for the remnants of the legacy media will be to wait until the Trudeau government collapses completely, dumps the economic mess on your shoulders, and then 2 months later proclaim that it's your fault.
Right.
Well, and it will be your responsibility at that point. And so,
they get the party, I get the hangover.
Oh, you definitely are going to get the hangover. There's no doubt about that. And that's a formidable set of problems. Now, as we've already pointed out, Canada has a tremendous number of natural and cultural advantages. But still, there's a lot of... Now, you have a Senate that's packed with liberal progressives. Let's call them by their proper name. You have a Senate that's packed with progressives. You have a judiciary that's packed with progressives. You have municipalities all across the country that are progressive. Even once you win, there's going to be a lot of opposition to your movement forward, and you're going to inherit all these problems. So,
Are you trying to dissuade me from taking this job?
Man. And so, I want to know why you think you're ready. And it's been 2.5 years since we've had this conversation like this. And what's your plan, and who are the people you have in positions to implement your plan, and why should Canadians have confidence in them?
So, my plan is pretty clear. We're going to cut bureaucracy, cut the consultants, cut foreign aid, cut back on corporate welfare to large corporations. We're going to use the savings to bring down the deficit and taxes and unleash the free enterprise system. We're going to repeal C-69, that's the anti-energy law, to cause a massive resource boom in our country and make it attractive for business to do the value-added work here in this country. So part of it's going to be growing out of this mess. If you take the debt to GDP ratio, you have the denominator has to grow. And that's why we need a bigger, more powerful GDP that can fund our country and diminish the relative size of our debts. We're going to bring back a monetary discipline to bring down inflation, stop the money printing. And we're going to incentivize the municipalities to get building. But it's going to be a big fight with all of these things because there are so many vested interests that will be trying to hold us back. So many small economic groups that have profited off the status quo. They will be fighting against me, and I'm going to have to put out a call to Canadians that they have to stay politically active. They can't assume that simply by changing, by voting in an election, that everything is going to, all the problems are going to reverse instantaneously. Like, I will need people to put pressure on the Senate to adopt my economic reforms. I will need people to put pressure on their mayors and local councillors to get out of the way and let us build homes. I will need businesses to actually do their part. I mean, our corporate Canada is so completely incompetent when it comes to politics. They're going to have to start to fight for the policies that are good for their workers.
We have your back, Pierre Poilievre. I guarantee Canada has your back. Whatever you need, we'll be there for you.
More aggressively, and I've said that to them. We need to fire their incompetent lobbyists and actually go to the people and make the arguments for the reforms that I'm talking about.
And are the businesses that you're talking to, these are larger businesses, I presume, do they understand your concerns? Are they on board with your suggestions?
They're starting to understand because they know that what they have been doing hasn't worked.
Well, the energy companies have been towing the green line. Well, it seems to me to be a very bad strategy.
They're idiots. They're complete idiots. The big five oil companies in Canada have idiot lobbyists. They have brilliant workers, incredible workers, but idiot lobbyists. And they've been trying to suck up for the last 10 years and did nothing to support the right policies in the prior years. So that's going to have to change. The developers are going to have to inform people in the cities why housing costs so much. You know, how is it possible that Olivia Chow can raise development charges by 30% and nobody in Toronto knows about it? Well, it's because the builders have not made it known. And so the builders take the blame when the housing costs go up. I mean, sorry, you have to actually, politics is a participation sport, not a spectator sport. So our business community is going to have to step up and make the argument for these changes, or I will come up against a lot of political barriers. So my message to everyone is, God willing, I will triumph in the election, but the people who want the changes that I'm talking about are going to have to stay politically active to push them through and over the finish line.
Mm-hmm. So one of the remarks...
We got you, Pierre. We got your back. Like and subscribe, everybody. God bless. Stay safe. Pierre Poilievre is our next Canada's Prime Minister, and I can't freaking wait.